So it's a warm fall day here in Delphi, Indiana. I've been wanting to come here for a long time. I just have not had a chance. Obviously anybody who follows true crime at all has heard of the Delphi murders, where Abby and Libby were murdered here. This is a trail system. It's an old rail line, the Monon High Bridge Trail. It was the Monon Railroad, I guess. The railroad company built this bridge and they're converting it. It's basically public trails through here. And there's an old abandoned train bridge that's technically not part of the trail system, but it will be at some point. But I wanted to just come here. You know, there's so much information. There's so many podcasts and videos about this murder. And I wanted to maybe show a little something different. We're so used to seeing all these places from the helicopter or from, you know, Google Earth, or always a bird's eye view. And I just wanted to show you what it looks like now, like from the ground, to actually be here. And the trail starts right here. This first bridge here goes over the main highway and then works its way into the woods, and then eventually officially terminates at that abandoned train bridge, the high bridge. But, you know, plenty of people go across that thing. So Abigail Williams and Liberty German, 13 and 14 years old, respectfully. It was a Monday, February 13th, 2017. I'm not sure why they weren't at school, but it was an unseasonably warm day for February in Indiana. Low to mid 50s that day, and Libby had asked her sister to if she could drive them here so they could walk around, enjoy the weather, take some pictures. There's been a couple of times now where law enforcement has released some information, but for the most part, they've been pretty tight-lipped about things. At first, in 2017, they released just that still image of the man they refer to as Bridge Guy. And then also in 2017, they released just the audio clip that said, "Down the hill." And then it wasn't until 2019 that they released just a very short, like a 1-second clip of him walking. And then they released a little bit more where he says, "Guys, down the hill." Here's the second makeshift memorial here. It's very obvious that this pavement is very fresh. So my guess is this was just dirt, you know, or just crushed stone, typical old rail bed back when the girls were hiking here. And then they built this really nice, you know, area here. It's almost inviting people to cross this thing, which, you know, clearly it's a cross at your own risk type of situation here. Pretty steep. "30-something years this bridge has been obsolete. At the time, it had been closed for 30 years, 1987. But, so now you're nearing 35 years. And no, I don't really have much of a fear of heights. And I'm being cautious, but if you don't have good balance, you know, I wouldn't suggest walking on this. It was built in the 1800s, I believe 1891 to be specific. And at the creek, it's about 60 feet tall. The Monan Railroad Company built it and owned it up until the 80s, 1987. It was used mostly by CSX, and they ceased using it then, and it's sat here ever since. And I believe it's 850 feet long. They're planning to make this part of the park system, but officially it is not yet. So it's kind of like, it's an unofficial way to get to the other side of the trail. Now the county they have a grant for this. They've been given a grant for, it's part of a huge grant to convert more of this area into trails. And I think about $1 million something, 1.2 million is going to be devoted to rehabbing this bridge, putting a platform on it, putting railings on it, and making it officially part of the trail. So the story of Abby and Libby has been told many, many times, and you know, exhaustingly done. But not that that's a bad thing. I mean, the more exposure, the better. You never know who is going to hear the next podcast or see the next video, and know, you know, say, hey, my neighbor, you know, was up to no good, or, you know, hey, I work with somebody that looks like that, or you never know. So, in my opinion, with these things, the more exposure, the more that gets out there, the better in the long run. This is the other side of the bridge. You never really see this here. They came all the way across, and then bridge guy, when he said down the hill, he could have meant this. This is a much easier access to get down the hill. And then onto, there's a trail or some sort of road that goes down, and they could have gotten down to the creek from here. Look, I mean, they could have gone right down here. Absolutely. Could they have gone this way? Could they have gone down the hill this way? There's a bunch of trails all through this woods here. So it's possible. So this is what you're walking on when you're crossing this bridge. Definitely not in the best shape, but I don't think it's going to fall today. It was in the daytime. They easily could have come down here. You know, if bridge guy, whoever the murderer is, if they had a gun, or, you know what, even a knife. I mean, you're talking about two kids. That's an intimidating situation. He could have forced them to walk down here. Now, they got dropped off at about 1:30 or so by Libby's sister. And I believe the plan was for her father to pick them up. I just think that he said, hey, I'll be there around 3. you know, I'll call you or I'll text you. So when he got there, he called, he texted, and he got no response, of course. And it's really then where he started walking these trails while her dad was walking these trails looking for them. The killer quite possibly could have been leaving the park or leaving the area on a different trail. I would say that if in fact they did cross the creek, then they would have crossed, you know, somewhere around here. Who knows? And then the murder scene was down that way a bit on the other side. And if you were standing here on that day, February 13th, 2017, you would have seen those girls crossing this bridge while being followed by that man. So obviously there is lots and lots of misinformation and people's theories that unfortunately turn into fact by the game of telephone and through the internet. So I'm not here today to help spread any of that. And I don't know any more information than anybody else who keeps up with this case. But then there's a lot of rumors that maybe local people have heard, maybe they know somebody working on the case or who was here that day and that night. So who knows? But what I wanted to do is give you a different perspective and show you what this area looks like. It's always weird to put yourself in a position where, you know, you're potentially walking the same place that somebody walked before they were murdered, or when you're in that exact location where someone was murdered. Very surreal. You know, about 2/3 of the way over the bridge, or 1/3 of the way in, depending on which direction you're coming from, you're still over land, and these trees have obviously grown in, and it's very surreal. You forget that you're so high up. You just have this tunnel of foliage to walk under. And obviously looking down is something that should be done on a regular basis when crossing this. That's most likely the reason that bridge guy was looking down and had such a weird stride, or, you know, the way he was walking, because it's a, you know, it's a rickety old bridge, and it's not one where you really want to take your eyes off. You know, I certainly can't imagine being some young kid and realizing that some strange man is following me across this thing. So So crossing back over now, you can see what I was talking about when I was down there. If they did in fact cross this bridge and then were forced down that way and then possibly cross the creek, it's a possibility, but I think it just would be kind of, you have to kind of make it around that bend to the right before you can comfortably get up this embankment. So I think it's more likely that they crossed back over the bridge and then walked into the woods that way through a trail. So had they gone back over the bridge, they could have been led into the woods right down this trail on the west side of the bridge. So this trail continues for about not even a quarter of a mile, and it ends on private property, which is also the crime scene, where the crime scene was. And it was owned by a man named Ron Logan. At the time, he was 77 years old. He's since passed away. But he was never listed as a suspect. But like many people in this case, people who have been thought about in that sense, there were some shady things that happened. I believe it came out that he had asked a family member to lie for him about being somewhere when he wasn't. So who knows? But that person on the video certainly does not look like a 77-year-old man, so I think we can rule him out. That trail comes along the edge, and you come to this steep embankment here. And it's possible that the killer brought them down this trail, and then it could have been here that he was talking about when he said down the hill. While I'm over here, I wanted to show you the cemetery where all the investigators and the police were parked. If you watch that footage, especially that helicopter footage, you'll see all of the police cars lining this road here, or this little driveway that goes through this cemetery. This is called the cleverly named the Delphi Cemetery, but they were parked here to gain access down the hill where the girls' bodies were found. So if you were an investigator when those murders happened, and if you were searching right in this area, this is where you would have found those girls deceased. This is right in the area of the crime scene. Officially, they have never released any information as far as how the girls were killed. Again, I want to keep the speculation light, if any at all, but I mean, there's just no sign, there's no trace of anything, but they could have certainly just crossed the creek, which is right there, and been right in this area. The creek is right here, so they definitely could have accessed this area through here. And that's the river right there. Actually, I'll take you. It's not too far at all. And if they did indeed cross the creek here, it would not have been difficult. At most, that water is a foot deep. And as for the update that I was telling you about, this is the Wabash River in Peru, Indiana, about 40 miles or so from Delphi. Investigators were seen in this river with what looked to be metal detectors and searching all around for what we don't know. But something was in this river at some point, and coincidentally it is the exact town, and we are just a few miles from the home of a man named Kagan Klein, who many people believe to be somehow involved in the Delphi murders. He lives not far from here, just a couple miles away, and there's been some talk, some chatter online about how this could certainly have something to do with him. He created some online accounts, some social media accounts that were fake, basically like a catfish account. He went by the name Anthony Schatz, and he would basically talk to minors, underage girls, and get them to send him pictures or whatever. He posed as a younger model. I think he stole some pictures from somebody online. And he had contact with Libby before this. I think he contacted her on Instagram, but many people believe that he possibly is cooperating in jail, and he said, hey, you know, I threw something down here, or something's down here. The problem is it's been years now, and I mean, how many floods, how many high rivers have there been here, you know, sending it down, whatever it was, down the river. They never actually said what it was. They were very tight-lipped about it, but who knows if something is going on? Who knows if they found something or if they're looking for something specific? But it sounds like he may be kind of talking to police. I don't know. But this is the update. I just wanted to show you this is the bridge. So we'll see what happens. I mean, hopefully something will come out of this. Like I said before, the more people talk about this, the more videos and podcasts are made about these murders, the more chance that someone, that one person, is going to see this and say, hey, that looks like somebody I work with, or that looks like, you know, my neighbor down the street. Because as of October 2022, we just don't know. Anyway, it's getting dark. I'm going to get back on the road. Thanks for watching.